and welcome to another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. I am your host, Sam Randazzo. And I am joined today by my two extremely dapper co-hosts. To my right, with the shades, looking like a true badass. It is the one and only Uncle Sam.
Hello.
You're looking very well groomed today, I must say.
Yes.
You feel clean? You feel lighter?
Yes.
I like this. This is the true look. And to my left, it is none other than our very own Mr. Zolo, Mike Palazzolo. How are you?
Blessed.
We got the double blessed today. We're extremely blessed, some
Double
would say.
blessed.
And behind the computer, absolutely just massacring his own knob, it's Bruce, the tugboat Venditti.
How you doing?
When do we get the Bruce cam?
I'm waiting on Bruce to
don't
set
get
up
a
the
Bruce
Bruce.
cam.
Why you could
I'm not
just go
showing up.
on fucking Amazon
I'm not
and
showing
get a
up until we
webcam.
get a Bruce cam.
Okay, we'll
Or-
have a Bruce cam. We're going to get the Bruce cam.
And what I wanted to do is I wanted to shoot night vision on him.
Night vision?
You know, so his eyes look all fucked up. And
Well, they usually
as
looked
high
all
as he
fucked
really
up.
is.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
I'll wear a costume. Every episode just randomly selected.
turd burglar.
The fucking turd burglar. Anyways, it's Wednesday. We're back. We got a lot of good shit coming up. But first, today we need to talk about the AFC East. But before we get into that, we made it halfway through the week. How's your week been so far?
Oh, it's great. Terrific. Living the dream.
Did you get any sun? You look like you got a little bit of sun.
Yeah, I was outside today sanding. It's therapeutic.
Hearing the birds chirp,
Well,
breathing in sawdust,
yeah, sucking in sawdust.
taking in the beautiful
in every
views of
orifice
Dearborn
my
Heights.
body. And basically, if I don't do that, I'll run amok and kill a bunch of people. So I think it's better that I do this.
When you go home and shower, do you ever have like sawdust up in your ass and shit?
I mean, you can see it coming off me in the shower. You see it on I have marble shit on my floor in my shower, and you can see the dirt on it.
It's just sawdust
Yeah.
all over the place.
It's fucking mounds of sawdust.
A dusty dong, to say the least.
A dusty dong.
A dusty dong. Zolo, we made it halfway through the week. How you doing? How you feeling?
Good.
Any high points so far?
Sound like him. Good.
That's it.
High points. No, I was disappointed in softball yesterday. I still don't have a proper hit on the year, which is very embarrassing. I have one strikeout. Did I strike? Yeah, 2 strikeouts. The guy started throwing strikes on me yesterday. I'm pissed. I got to get to the batting cages to get my shit put together. And the loss was bad, but we'll get those teams back.
Tips.
All you got to do is just accidentally throw your bat at him, and don't think twice about that again.
Just let it slip.
Just let it slip out of your hands. Oops. Yeah, make sure you say the oops as you're, backswinging it out on the way to the mound.
I think I'm so uncoordinated right now that I don't know if I could perfectly time my swing and miss to make the bat go down
That's
the middle
even
and
better. So it looks authentic.
someone will get hurt.
Good.
Somebody will take a bat to the face. Yeah, Tip softball did took one on the chin last night. No big deal.
Injury prone.
We'll bounce back. So next week. We're on to next week. We're on to Cincinnati.
Shout out to Dan, Allie, and cousin PJ and Dylan.
Everybody's in the chat. Yeah, I do agree with Dylan. You're going to need a bat flip after that first big hit out of you this year. But that's it. We're done talking about losing today. The rest of the day is all about winning. Bruce,
Tiger blood.
you've made it to Wednesday. How's your week going so far?
Not bad.
Not bad?
I don't have to see him every day so far. So
Your fucking God.
Now, when you
just me and Rigo, and things are going smooth.
when you
Oh,
imply
whatever,
that he
dude.
made it to Wednesday,
Yeah, right after you left, he called me complaining about you.
What do you
how
mean?
useless you are.
shout out
Yeah,
to Bob,
okay.
shout out to President Baker. Are we instilling in him that you made it to Wednesday? Like, are we like making it a thing in his head, like Inception, that he's just going to get fired any one of these days now? Is that why? Is that the implication?
So this is what I'll say. As of right now, like the doomsday clock.
Mm-hmm.
So like the closer the clock gets to midnight, that means the world's gonna end. If you've never heard of it, there is such thing as a doomsday clock, and I think we're at like 11:15 right now or something. But the closer the clock gets to midnight, that means the world is ending, essentially. Bruce's doomsday clock hasn't passed 11:30 yet this season. So far in season 3, it hasn't passed 11:30. Right now,
for you.
Right now, I'd say he's at 10:45. But it can very quick. It can be a matter of minutes.
55
Can take him to from 10:45 to 11:45. So as of right now, Bruce will make it till Friday. I can't guarantee anything past that point.
I'm on that short of a leash.
What?
Didn't know my job was up like that. But
Well,
all right.
hey, listen, we take everything here 3 days at a time.
Now, are we talking about tip balls, or are we talking about his other employment?
No, his other.
The other employment, it's mind numbing.
So essentially, when it comes to the other employment,
Yeah, he said.
Bruce is a steak, and Uncle Sam is a very large, hungry pit bull, and I'm sitting there just gripping the chain for just holding on for dear life.
For no reason.
Listen to me.
For no reason. I show up
I
for
will
work.
say this. Bruce is good when he doesn't ask me any questions. That's when he's good.
That's all it is. So I just have to ask you
Don't ever
no
speak to me.
questions.
What if he asks you
Don't
how
ever
your day's
speak to me.
doing? What if he's like,
You
how's your
told me
day?
The
that
Highlander?
before.
Yeah.
Remember in Hyler? When that guy said you like candy, don't ever speak to me, ever. That's
So-
what I want to do to him.
Real quick, I wanted to talk about a few things going on in the chat right now. President Leon Baker, very, very long-time friend of the show.
Okay, you're
He's in the chat. He says that you look like a beat-ass Vin Diesel today.
A what?
A beat-ass Vin Diesel. Jack is in the chat saying that you look like a more homosexual version of Vin Diesel.
Interesting. Who said that?
Jack.
Jack said that?
Jack sold you out hard today.
Fucker, you.
I'm wondering if like Ian took his phone.
No, Jack comes through with those one-liners every once
Does
in a
he?
while. Yeah.
Ian's better.
You look like a gay
Ian's
Vin
better
Diesel.
than him anyway.
The big gay bear version of Vin Diesel. Too bad Uncle Tony, Uncle Sam's brother,
Oh,
Uncle
God,
Tony's not in the
no.
chat right now to make comments on that.
Don't. He's not in it. Don't even tell him to come in it.
All right. We have a little bit of news to discuss today. Before we get
Leon looks like the turd I left laying in the toilet in the room.
wow.
That was a good one.
That was a good one.
Wrapped in the toga.
First things first. We already did our AFC South recap on Monday. But there was a big signing today. Wide receiver Tyler Boyd has signed with the Tennessee Titans. So they are just continuing to add up at wide receiver.
They needed that too. Too bad Ryan Tannehill didn't have that kind of fucking weapons to throw to, huh?
It's a 1-year deal worth $4.5 million. That reunites him with Brian Callahan, who was his OC in his time in Cincinnati. So now they've added Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd to go along with DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks. That is not a bad top 4 receiving core. So shout out to Tennessee. That was a pretty nice move for them just to keep adding on to that core that they're trying to build. Cousin PJ in the chat saying that we should host a roast of you. Would you be?
I'm funnier than Jeff Ross and the rest of those guys, by the
Well,
way.
you'd be the one getting roasted.
I don't give a fuck.
So we would have
Anybody
to.
and their mom could come onto that and roast me. I don't care.
Honest to God, he might be onto something here.
Yeah.
What if we did the roast of Sal?
What if we do the roast of fucking Augustino, Bruce, the
The
Tugger Nut?
It's actually weird hearing you say my name.
I know. I've never heard him say
I would
Augustino.
love to see
That was
him sit in the
super
middle
weird.
here. And for every thing we do, we get those little fucking things, the padded things, because I don't want to kill him on camera.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd like to kill him on camera and make some money on it. But what I think is we just talk shit about him and hammer the fuck out of him.
For anybody who doesn't know, the man behind the man behind the computer, who we always refer to as Bruce, his real name is actually Augustino. But at one point we shaved his head and he looked like Bruce Willis, so that is where that name came
He
from.
still looks like Bruce Willis,
A little
even
bit.
with hair.
Can't
See, the
forget
problem
Bruce
is
the Shark either.
you can't say that he looks like Bruce Willis right now with him sitting in here.
Okay.
So can't. Dark Lumen, longtime follower and friend of the show in the chat, says that if we roast you, that quote unquote January 6th gets a rebuttal every time. So
Absolutely.
he is looking a tad bit January 6th today, I will say. Other news.
I was the third gunman on the grassy knoll.
Rashee Rice. Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice, who I believe he was a first-round pick last year, correct?
He was a second. No, he was a late round pick.
Was he?
He was a late round pick.
He came on in a big way last
Fourth
year.
round? Thought he was
I'll
fourth.
tell you right now, but he was a late round pick.
Either way, probably the number one receiver of the Chiefs at the moment.
Second round, pick
Oh,
55.
damn.
Second round pick. He got himself in some hot water when he got caught drag racing and crashed a whole bunch of cars and then ran from the scene. Well, before the NFL could give him a punishment for that, and that case could get settled, another one has brought up. He has been accused of an assault charge in Dallas. He was arrested by Dallas police, and it was under investigation after being in a fight in a nightclub. This is not good for him.
Well, listen, how old is this kid?
I mean,
Is he 21?
He can't be any older than 22.
Is he 21, 22?
He's 24.
Oh, he's 24.
A little older.
Well, I think we've all done stupid shit when we're young, and this guy just can't get out of the way of himself right now.
Too bad, too.
You know, and it's too bad because he's obviously he's a talented guy. I believe that's the only reason why he's not in jail right now.
When you're in the NFL, you can't get caught doing stupid shit twice. And now he's already got a microscope up his ass, and this is when there's smoke, there's fire type incident. So, I mean, he's facing 8 charges, 8 combination felony and misdemeanor charges from the.
So it's obviously he's
the
going to be
reckless
suspended. I would say
The rumor
just for
was
violating the code of conduct, he's going to get suspended.
the rumor was he was going to get suspended for half the year just for drag race.
The car shit.
Correct. Yeah. Well, so there's been a lawsuit filed against him in the drag racing thing because they're saying whoever he hit now has permanent brain damage.
Oh,
So
okay. It'd be hard to fucking unprove that, isn't
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad already. But you were saying earlier that some things came out now about his pre-draft situation. Last year.
Yeah. Some scouts are uncovering that there were character issues when he was at SMU, and it's something to keep an eye on because it's shown now.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could dig up dirt on all these kids. It is what it is.
Anyways, that's the news for today. We're going to jump into the AFC East and go through a full recap on that. Let us know in the chat what you guys want us to focus on more or less of when we're going through these recaps.
Lumen had something good that we need to talk about at the end of the show. I'll prep it once we're done with AFC East.
Okay.
So you want to talk about the 49ers? Give it a rest.
No, we're talking about them next week.
Fucking in a couple weeks, bud.
Shout out to PJ, cousin PJ in the chat. The Brady Roast recap is in Monday's episode. If you go back and watch that, it is completely in there. But moving on to the AFC East, we should start with Uncle Sam's favorite team now, as he is our new resident bandwagon, the New York Jets. And if you're looking for some remnants of Aaron Rodgers, you can look no further than Uncle Sam's chin, because last year there was no deeper throat than his for the star quarterback Aaron Rodgers. And much to his demise, he made it 4 plays.
I'm not the one who has a restraining order from Tom Brady on me.
This is true.
Because you gargled his sack. But anyway.
First and foremost, their biggest move of the offseason is the fact that Aaron Rodgers' Achilles is put back together. And he had more than 6 weeks to recover from it. I think we can pretty much all agree there, right? That is the Jets' biggest ad of the offseason, is getting Aaron Rodgers back off of injury.
Absolutely.
And he's throwing, too. They're doing camp right now, and he's throwing and moving normally.
The other big highlight here is we thought everybody might be gone from there at the end of last year. That was not the case. Amu Bob is back. Head coach Robert Saleh. Amu Bob is back.
Mahmoud Bob.
Nathaniel Hackett is back.
You know what? I don't know. He needs to gargle Aaron Rodgers every day of the year. Every fucking day of the year. Because I think he's fucking useless. But That's just me.
They also retained defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich as well as general manager Joe Douglas. So the staff there is completely intact. Even after the disappointing year that they had last year, the staff there is still intact. Zach Wilson, as we know, is gone. Thank God that abomination is over.
I think he got a bad rap.
Well, we'll see. He might have a chance to start in Denver. You never know.
I don't think it was as much as Zach Wilson as it was the OC. I think the OC, he proved to himself to be utter dog shit in Denver, and the only reason why he still has a job is because Aaron Rodgers likes him. I mean, that's the bottom fucking line there.
They also came out with some new jerseys, as well as a new logo. How do you feel about that? You being our resident Jets fan.
They went back to the old late 80s, early 90s version of the Jet uniforms.
Do we know who Golden Robert is? Is that someone new? Is that a Jets lumen?
This, we all agree, A-Rod best cute. I do not know. Golden Robert, if you are a friend of the show, please expose yourself in the chat so we can properly identify you.
If not, welcome.
Welcome
to
to the
family.
show. Thanks for joining us. The new jerseys and the new logo, I thought were probably, well, they were better than Denver. On par with Houston, but not as good as the Lions.
I liked Houston's.
I thought the Jets did a good job. I think the new logo has been called for a while, and they plastered it all over the place. And I like the jerseys. They're not over the top, and they're clean, and they look pretty good.
Some big moves that they made. A guy who Uncle Sam's a huge fan of, edge rusher Hassan Riddick. They got him from the Eagles in exchange for a conditional 2026 third-round pick. Some nice depths to go up there with your boy Kayvon Thibodeau on the defensive front.
Thibodeau plays for the Giants.
Not Thibodeau. I'm blanking.
Sauce.
Williams. Quinnen Williams, my bad. I was looking at his face in my head and for some reason said Kayvon Thibodeau.
They actually brought in somebody that's going to be on next to Quentin Williams. That should be these guys together could be game wreckers.
And who is
that? They could even be better this year than they were last year.
I think Hassan Riddick makes an instant impact on that defensive line. Whereas in Philadelphia, he was kind of overlooked in a way, I would say.
He's better than anybody they had there last year. That's for sure.
I agree.
That's for sure. I mean, what'd you lose? You lost Bryce Hoff and Jonathan Franklin Myers. But I would say that Riddick is better than both of them.
Well, yeah. So they traded away Franklin Myers of the Broncos for a 6th-rounder. They also traded away, like we said, Zach Wilson, and they ended up with a 6th round for him. So they really didn't acquire much in these guys that they traded away. But they also got Morgan Moses, some help on the offensive line to try and protect Aaron Rodgers. They had to give up a 4th for him to the Ravens.
They actually picked up 2 San Francisco 49ers, too, that really is going to fucking help them this year on that defensive line because San Francisco obviously is in cap purgatory. So Ken Long and Solomon Thomas.
Solomon Thomas was a big one for them, holding on to him.
These guys were both first-round picks for the 49ers.
And they also...
Von Kinlaw, right? Hey. Was Kinlaw a first-round pick for the Niners? I thought he was.
Well,
am I correct on that?
Solomon Thomas.
He was.
Excuse me. Solomon Thomas was like number 3 overall.
Yeah, he was very, very high.
And I thought Kinlaw was a first-round pick too.
I'm looking right now.
Yeah.
Well, another defensive guy that they were able to hold on to was C.J. Mosley.
Well,
and still, I mean, you want to talk about a tackle machine because we talked about a lot of them last week.
Kinlaw was a first-rounder.
Yep.
For the Niners, yeah.
So that defense is just continuing
just gotten
to add
better.
pieces.
Well, Solomon Thomas has been there. He's just a depth piece, though. He's just been depth, but it's good. That's good depth to have.
This guy who can play inside and outside. He's very versatile.
He can.
Because he come out as a defensive end and wound up playing tackle for quite a few years for a couple different teams. And then now he's with the Jets. So... And Mahmoud Bob, I'm sure, knows the MO on both of these guys. So all that's going to do is help.
One of the biggest things that we had an issue with last year, I think, personally, was the Jets receiving core. It's outside of Garrett Wilson. There wasn't too many other people there to do anything. They go out and get Mike Williams, 1 year, $15 million deal.
If he can stay healthy,
He's on the field.
That's going to be an incredible
What a compliment to get.
for him.
What a compliment to Garrett Wilson. If he could stay
Well,
on
yeah,
the field.
because he won't be fucking triple covered anymore. I mean, come on.
Other than that, they did lose quite a bit. Like you said, Bryce Huff,
Corey Davis.
Jordan Whitehead gone, TJ Uzama gone. Yeah, the ghost of Corey Davis. So they lost Bryce Huff and Bryce Hall.
Yeah.
They did lose some things, but honest to God, so far before we get to the draft, I don't think anything is all that devastating to them. Do you think there was a piece there that they lost that really hit home hard?
Not really, because I think they signed guys that were better than the guys that were previously there. You know, they signed Tyron Smith. That's a huge thing. They need to protect.
The Tyron Smith deal, 1 year, $6.5 million, but up to $20 million with incentive.
Right. And then they got Morgan Moses from the Ravens.
Correct.
That's going to help immensely over there.
Well,
Smith and Moses are going to start. Those
Yeah,
are their starting
100%.
tackles over Fashanu. Fashanu, they're going to.
Now, that's better than what they had there. Vishanu actually might be pushed in to play guard this year. I could see that happening, too.
well, he was one of those guys who could play on both sides.
Because he's a massive dude.
Yeah,
And they're gonna-
that he could play guard or tackle. So that's a huge, huge thing when you have a guy who's able to play on both sides. The other thing I wanted to talk about is they signed Tyrod Taylor, which you might not think that's a big deal. But at the end of the day, I don't care what you say. If they're going to go all in the way that they are, it's good to have a backup plan in case Aaron Rodgers, unfortunately, meets his demise again. You're not relying
they
on...
They did draft a quarterback, too. So, not to say he's going to be the guy in the future. I mean, he could be. I mean, 5th-round pick.
Let's not beat around the bush. Let's go into the draft. So like we said, with the 11th pick, Olu Fashanu. You guys both touted this guy extremely high.
Wait, would you say he's the most athletic lineman in this draft?
I don't know about most athletic, but I like his track record of who he went against in college.
Yeah.
And I think that's applicable. I think his age and he's got a low floor at the moment. He does need development, which is why you're not going to see him this year probably unless there's injuries. But his ceiling is sky high because of his athleticism. And I do think he's the left tackle of the future. I think it's 1 year of Tyron Smith, then boom, you're going to get Fashanu. And it's going to make a lot of sense more next year. I wouldn't call him the most athletic tackle in the draft, though. I think that could go to maybe Mims or... J.C. Latham, probably one of those two dudes are a little more athletic, but he's a good player nonetheless. He's worth top 10. He's draft capital. He's a top 10 pick for sure. And I like their draft. I'm happy to talk about it. There's a lot of pieces in their draft that came in to complement other things that they already have going.
Right.
And maybe they think they have the luxury to take some depth, but we can continue from there.
Yeah, in the second round, pick 37, they took Jalen Polk, wide receiver from Washington. He was Rome Odunze's number 2 there.
No. You went down one. You went to the Patriots there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow. And they did not have a second round pick. Third round, pick 65, Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky, wide receiver. What do you think of this pick here?
Well, I mean, at this point where they were picking in the 3rd round, I would have to say he was he's basically filling up a roster spot. I mean, I think they got their guns there, and this kid might be in the rotation. Who knows? He might be returning punts. We don't know.
Corley?
Yeah.
I think Corley's wide receiver 3 off the rip.
Think so?
Yeah, and then not only is he wide, they're not going to sign Mike Williams next year. Mike Williams is going to be a free agent after this year.
Is somebody else still on the roster? Friend of mine, the guy who I think is
Alan Lazard?
one of the best wide receivers of all time.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't believe
No, it's not
he's
Alan
still on the
Lazard.
roster.
He's not on it?
Ghost of Randall Cobb.
No. Who did we see that was the best player on the field when the Patriots came here?
Braxton Berrios was in Miami last year.
Oh, was he?
Yes.
That's right. I forgot he went to Miami.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They took a running back.
Hey, this kid is really good. Have you looked at anything on him, Mike? Because I was telling you about him. I was watching some tape on him. My God.
Real quick, before I get into Braylon Allen, I just want to say Malachi Corley was very well received and could have easily been a top 40 pick. He's a very good receiver. It was just a loaded draft class. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to love him, and I think it's going to offer him something similar to what he had with like Jordy Nelson. He's a stout, very stout, consistent pass catcher. He doesn't drop balls. He's not huge, but he's athletic, and he's going to get open in this offense. So look for someone that's like a fantasy stash if you do sleeper leagues. That's got to keep an eye on. On Braylon Allen, what's not to like about Wisconsin running backs? And this is another.
He averaged 7 yards per catch.
Yeah, he's excellent. And I mean, of course, he played against behind a good old line, and it was a rough year for Wisconsin. But Wisconsin running backs get downfield. That's what they're known for. Right. And again, this is a complimentary piece, and this is a good compliment to Breece Hall, in my opinion. I think this is a great pickup.
Big help for him. Help to keep him healthy. Get this guy some snaps.
5th round, pick 173. They had 2 5th-round picks. 3 5th-round picks, actually. 171, 173, 176. The 5th round, they ended up going a quarterback, like you said, and they take Jordan Travis out of Florida State.
Can I do this one?
Please, go ahead.
Jordan Travis would have at least been a Heisman finalist and would have been in the college football playoff had he not, whatever it was, would he break his leg in 2 places, compound fracture? Had that not happened, Jordan Travis would have been the real deal. I thought he was outstanding all year last year. There's a reason 3 of his pass catchers got drafted. Who do we have? Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, and I'm missing one. Another Florida State guy got drafted. Jaheim Bell, the tight end. 4 pass catchers got drafted from Florida State. That's because of Jordan Travis. He was excellent. He reminds me of a less athletic but also less mistake-prone Lamar Jackson. And I think he's going to be excellent for them one day. He probably doesn't touch the field at all this year. It's a similar situation to Hendon Hooker. Doubt you see him this year. He's not going to be the backup quarterback this year. But this is a good cute little stash and play option in the 5th round. And I'm excited.
Who better to learn behind than Aaron Rodgers?
Who better to learn behind than Aaron Rodgers?
Staying in the 5th round, pick 173, they went with a 2nd running back. Isaiah Davis out of South Dakota State. Does anybody know anything about this man? And if you do, please reveal it.
Yeah, Isaiah Davis is more of a speedster.
Change of pace.
Yeah, and South Dakota State they had that Mason McCormick that got drafted. Someone else got drafted from there too, I believe. Long story short, South Dakota State has been one of the premier Division II schools, or Division I AA schools, I should say. And he's a good, stout little back. I think they need depth at running back, and they went out and built it this year. And I do think Breece Hall's the featured piece. I think he's going to be 3, sometimes 4 downs, and he's going to see a lot of snaps, even with his injury history. But this is going to be very helpful, the depth that they built at running back.
Then with their last 5th-round pick, 176, Quantez Stig.
Yeah, I got this one too. Quantez Stiggers was known for his story. The Lions actually brought him in.
Right.
His story is outstanding. It's something I relate to. Like, there was a really good piece in him about him in the Athletic, and it made a lot of people cry. So he was really good in high school. I don't think he ended up getting he stayed, if I remember correctly, he stayed close to home because his dad was sick for a long time. He had Division I offers. He's from the Atlanta area. Stayed close to home because his dad was sick. His dad ended up dying while he was at a D2 school. And he came home. He just dropped out of school, completely dropped out of school for almost 2 years. It was extremely sad. And eventually, once he recovered, he was trying to help out at home. Once he recovered from the loss of his father, the emotional loss, his mom was trying to help him get back into football and was sending tape of him out to anyone who would look at it. He was going to local camps in the Atlanta area, which is saying a lot because there's a lot of camps in the Atlanta area. and just trying to get his name back out there because he couldn't get another chance in college at the time. One thing led to another. He got a tryout to go to the Toronto Argonauts, the CFL, the Canadian Football League. And Canadian Football League isn't big here. It's a big deal in Canada. People in Canada care about the Canadian Football League, and a lot of washed-up guys end up there at some point. So he gets a tryout, and
A lot of good guys come from there to here.
there's guys that are
Moon.
good in college that go there, and vice versa. It happens.
Yeah.
There's a symbiotic relationship, and even coaches like
Doug
Mark
Clooney.
Trestman was I think Mark Trestman coached the Montreal Alouettes, which are a great team. And enough on CFL history. He gets a tryout with the Toronto Argonauts, and they didn't call him back, and he was waiting for them to call him back he was sitting in a hotel room in Toronto for a couple days, to the point where he finally just showed up at the practice facility, and they go, "What are you doing here?" And he goes, "Well, I want to know if I made the team or not." And he goes, "No, we're cutting people right now, and we didn't call you because we're not cutting you, and you're going to be a part of the team." He turned out to be one of the best cover corners in the CFL last year. He was at the Lions. The Lions talked to him, I think, twice. Local day, they were able to have him because he was in Toronto, and they talked to him at the Combine. He's a project, but this is a great system for him to learn in, and he could end up being a very good player. I think he's 6'1". He's super quick. He's got good hands. He's a late bloomer simply because his process has evolved late, and I empathize with that. Things have happened later for him because of what's gone on in his life, and I think he could be a very, very good player for the Jets. The 5th is where a lot of teams had him. Some people had him as late as the 7th. Some people thought he could go in the 4th. It's a good spot, and that's a good landing. It's a good spot to be drafted. It's a good landing spot.
You're getting a very talented guy at that spot.
Yeah.
So
He could be a name that you know in a year.
right.
And the 7th round, pick number 257, safety out of Alabama. This is late for an Alabama guy to go. Shocked he didn't go in the first round. Jalen Key, Alabama safety.
What's not to like about Bama DBs?
Amen.
Another developmental guy, but again, that's a good place. If you're going to develop, it's a good place to develop.
Overall, what do we think of the Jets offseason?
I think they had a pretty good offseason.
I think they had a great draft.
I do too.
When you factor in Tyron Smith, you factor in Moses, you factor in Mike Williams, and then they had a good draft too.
Yes.
That's big.
What do you think? So far, so good.
I like what they've done. I mean, it makes sense.
Next up, let's discuss a team that I personally am so disappointed in. My former love, the New England Patriots. Well, it's pretty well noted here that we didn't love their head coaching hire in Gerard Mayo. At least I did not. I didn't think he was the right guy for the job. They promoted him from within. To me, that is the first miss on their part this offseason. Anybody have anything to say on Gerard Mayo as Patriots head coach real quick?
I think we were all in agreement during the process that this was the worst or second worst coaching hire.
Yep.
They had a chance to reinvent the wheel and to do something different, and they brought in not necessarily a Belichick disciple, but a guy that played there. And I thought this
Brought in a Patriot.
They brought in a Patriot. This was a chance to finally get some outside influence from someone that's been on the outside looking in instead of what you've had for the last 25 years, and they didn't do that.
Yeah. They could have changed the direction, and they just kept everything exactly the same without keeping it the same.
Yeah, that's kind of shitty.
They don't have a GM at the moment. But their director of scouting, Elliot Wolf, is currently serving as the de facto GM because I don't know if they're just waiting it out.
No, they've been looking. They started their GM hunt last week. I know they've talked to a few names. I made this a week ago, so it's even though I made it a week ago, it's slightly dated at this point. But they've been talking to GM candidates. They've been starting to interview, and Elliot Wolf has started to open up a little bit on some stuff. But they're looking for GMs now.
The rest of the coaching staff, some big names. Alex Van Pelt, offensive coordinator. Do we know where he came from, what he's done, who he is?
Played for the Giants, no?
You know more than I
He
do.
was a linebacker for the Giants.
I don't know enough about Alex Van Pelt to riff on him.
Defensive coordinator, DeMarcus Covington.
I don't know who he is.
And then obviously we all know who this guy is. Inside linebackers coach, Donta Hightower.
No, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, right.
What's he got? 4 rings or 5?
I think he only has 3. I think he was gone before the 4th one. Obviously, they had a massive hole at quarterback after trading.
I will say this. He has potential to be a head coach. One
You
day
think
in this
so?
league. Yeah.
We'll find out.
You think Donta Hightower, right?
Yes.
Obviously, there was a massive hole at quarterback that they still haven't filled since his greatness, Tom Brady, left to go to Tampa Bay. The Mac Jones experiment, we're just going to forget that ever happened. But they went out in this year's draft, and I don't want to talk about the whole draft yet because we got other stuff to cover. But first round, Drake May, 3rd overall pick. Pretty well documented that we were not all fans of his, but we saw some good things. Okay, I'm going to ask 2 questions.
I'm going to be honest with you. What I've seen out of Drake May and all that does is tell me Mac Jones. But Mac Jones won more than he did. A lot more. That's what I see.
You don't see
When I see Drake May, there's 2 guys I think of, Mitch Trubisky and Mac Jones.
You don't see any talent jump from the 2 names that you just named to Drake May.
No.
If you're right, then that was they've had 2 massive whiffs in a row. Zolo, your thoughts on Drake May? Can he be better than Mac Jones?
Yeah, just because he's
Can't be
more
no
skilled,
worse.
he's more gifted than Mac Jones. I just don't. This is a guy that needed to marinate a little bit more. And I also don't think you look at the Falcons offseason. Of course, Michael Penix isn't going to start this year, but he's going into a good situation. You look at the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy's going into a good situation. The Bears, what they did with Caleb Williams, that's a good situation. The Commanders got ahead of Jaden Daniels. That's a good situation. Out of all the quarterbacks, he's going into the worst situation with the worst pass catchers. They tried to overcomp later in the draft with their pass catchers. You'll see they went for a lot of receivers, but guys that weren't really as good. You know, guys that you have to develop. One of these guys has to be a hit because they took so many of them. You know, Kendrick Bourne is destined to have some sort of big fantasy impact because someone's got to catch the fucking ball there.
Yeah.
You know? So, no, I'm not. They didn't do enough to ensure Drake May's success. So do the Patriots.
I do. I like Kendrick Bourne.
Who did you? You also liked N'Keal Harry there for a while.
No, that was you with the N'Keal Harry.
Listen,
to fucking stop.
He's selling insurance now. So
Jesus Christ.
they extended defensive tackle Christian Barmore, 4 years, $92 million.
That's huge.
That's a big move for them.
Because he's a force. He's a force. I like him.
They doled out. We're getting to it right now. Sam's going to roll through it, but they doled out a lot of money to their homegrown guys,
which they never do. They never did in the Belichick era. Never did. They would let guys go and then bring them back after they got through that big
cheap.
contract.
They'd get it for cheap after the other team released.
How many times did Patrick Chung get released by the fucking Patriots? That guy looked like he was getting released every year for about 6 years.
They also, Michael Onwenu, please tell me I got that right.
Cass Tech guy, Onwenu, Michigan guy. He's the guy they brought out at the draft to announce their 2nd round pick.
Yep.
Great player. He's one of the best guards in football.
3 years, $57 million for him.
Yeah, he's his own agent too. I wanted the Lions to go after him if he hit free agency, but I'm happy the Patriots paid him. I know he likes it there. I've heard from the grapevine, Detroit kid in Boston, so he's surviving all the racism. Good for him.
Here's the guy that we just talked about. Wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, unfortunately, will be bearing the Patriots wear white and blue longer. 3 years, $19.5 million. My God.
He's probably outside of the kid that went to the Raiders. What was his name?
The kid that went to the Raiders.
The one who was a Patriot, went to the Raiders last year. Myers.
Jacoby Myers.
Outside Jacoby Myers, he's the only other best receiver they had.
Well, if we're talking about their receiving core, it's Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, pre-draft.
Douglas had a nice little
Demario Douglas wasn't awful.
Year.
Not awful.
Right. He's a punt returner.
KJ Osborne, Juju.
My God.
The ghost of Jalen Rigor.
Jalen Reagor still in the league.
Yeah.
You know, there's a pick that Howie Roseman should have shot himself with.
Yeah.
He took
Probably one of
Reagor.
his. He took him over.
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson. Wow.
Another
The only
big
time
name.
he fucked up.
Another big name staying there. Safety, Kyle Duggar, 4 years, $58 million. He gets tore off pretty good.
Kyle Douglas.
he's been productive, man.
Solid guy, dude.
Yep.
Solid player.
They also re-signed Hunter Henry for 3 years and $27 million.
Say what you want to say about the guy. He puts up decent numbers.
Yeah.
He had some big games for them last year too.
Yeah.
But I'm not putting him in premier tight end one.
No. But
Might be a top 12 tight
he's
end.
a solid guy, dude.
Yeah.
He's a third tight end on your fucking bench.
A couple other guys that they re-signed, Josh Uche, Jalen Reagor, and Anthony Jennings, linebacker.
I actually like the Uchi kid from Michigan. He's pretty good.
You like somebody from Michigan? Wow, that's
He's
a first.
pretty good.
He had a
He's good
drop
player.
off in the second half of the year last
Oh,
year.
he was hurt.
2 years ago, though, he had an extremely productive season, and I think that led to them getting him on the cheap. So
Yeah.
Some big offseason signings, though. Jacoby Brissett, 1 year, $8 million. They're probably going to need that because I don't know if Drake May is going to start.
we
right
think
away.
he's going to start, right? Jacoby
Yes.
Brissett off the rip.
I think he's
Probably,
going to be
yeah.
the week 1 starter.
Say what you want to say about Brissett. I mean, should the Patriots have kept him when they developed him to be the player he was, instead of trying to experiment with these other fucking guys? Because he's
No.
better than Mac Jones.
No, they got
He's
good
better,
capital for him.
He's
though.
better than Zapp. Right.
I think they got
capital
almost
for
as
him.
much for Jacoby Brissett as they got for Jimmy Garoppolo, if I
Yeah.
remember
So.
correctly. I think that the comp was similar, but I don't remember.
But I think he could have ran their team better than the other guys that they have brought in the last
Maybe
few years.
he won a game. Didn't Jacoby Brissett win a game that when Garoppolo got injured?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brady was suspended. Garoppolo got hurt.
Brissett
came
won
in.
the first one and then lost the second one, and then
Yep.
Brady came back.
They lost running back Ezekiel Elliott. And they brought in running back Antonio Gibson on a 3-year, $11.25 million
I actually
deal.
like that.
Better
I do
than
too.
Better than Ezekiel Elliott.
Yes. And a guy who fits that system really nicely.
I like him because he can catch the ball. That's something he does. He not only can he run in between the tackles, but he can catch the football, and he's more versatile than Elliott. So that's why I think that's a great move for them. A seasoned vet playing with a young guy in Stevenson. I think there'll be a nice little 1-2 punch.
I agree.
Yeah,
They lost wide receiver Devontae Parker, but
that's
brought
no
in
loss.
KJ Osborne.
I don't know what to say. I mean, what was he? Minnesota's third best receiver? Give me a break. Go ahead.
Lost offensive tackle Trent Brown.
That's a loss.
At this point, still think that's a big loss.
Yes. Yes. They had so many problems with that offensive line last year.
I know.
They were fucking bad all the way up and down that line.
They also lost their other tight end, Mike Gesicki.
You know what? They didn't even use him.
I know. You know, he had that one
it
good year
shocks
in
me.
Miami.
He actually had a couple good years in Miami, and then he fucking just fell off the face of the earth. I don't get it.
Well, they brought in Austin Hooper to replace him.
Hooper's no joke. He's a tough kid.
They lost linebacker Mac Wilson,
Okay.
but they brought in.
Sione Taki.
I wasn't even going to
He'll
try.
start.
that.
He'll start for them.
I think so, too.
He's going
Where
to get a lot of
Taki
playing
play
time.
last year? Chicago?
Taki. I thought he was somewhere out west. I thought he was.
He was with Cleveland last year.
Cleveland. Okay.
Okay.
A couple other guys they brought in: guard Nick Leverett, safety Jalen Hawkins, and kicker Joey Sly.
Joey Sly. And they drafted a kicker, no? They
did.
draft a kicker?
No, they did not. But as we
they
said,
did.
first round they went Drake May. Second round, now we get to Jalen Polk, wide receiver Washington, the guy opposite of
Listen,
Roma Duncan.
he's good.
Great player. I think he went a little bit too high. I thought they were better. Malachi Corley, who the Jets got a lot later, I think is better than Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk is an X though. He's going to play on the outside. I think he's 6'2" or 6'3". He's not a Dunze fast. They had some great pass catchers at Washington last year.
I mean,
we'll find out if it was just Michael Penix making them look good or vice versa. But Polk is good. He was the second best receiver.
The highlights of these guys.
They made some big catches.
Him and Adunze, and the ball was there.
Polk was
The ball was there. These guys didn't make no acrobatic jump for the ball. It was there.
If you look at the tape, though, Polk was right there with Odunze last year, too,
Yeah.
with catches. His numbers, a lot of games he did better.
That's why he went as high as he did.
So, no, he's a good player. He's a good player, but this isn't, I don't know. It's gonna take a lot of targets to make him the answer, and he's gonna make mistakes, but if he can mitigate his drops, good for them. That's a good get.
In the third round, they went Kadeen Wallace, Penn State offensive lineman.
Project, he'll eventually play for them, though.
Then they had 2 fourth-round picks. Then with another offensive lineman in Layden Robinson from Texas A&M.
Probably an interior guy when it's all said and done.
And then turned around and went with a second wide receiver in Javon Baker from the University of Central Florida.
Javon Baker's super fast. He was a speedster. He's not very... I don't know. I could see him in slot. I think he's going to end up being a slot guy for them and a guy that's going to be available in the middle of the field. And you know who had the best tape in the middle of the field out of all the quarterbacks in this draft is Drake May. That's what set him apart between all the other quarterbacks is how good he is throwing the ball in between the numbers. So that could be a good deal for Javon Baker.
They had 2 sixth-round picks, the first of which they took Marcellus Dial, defensive back from South Carolina. And the second sixth-round pick is an interesting one, quarterback Joe Milton out of Tennessee.
I don't know when people are going to give up on Joe Milton at some point. They just see all his tape and the combine and everything and him just gunning balls, but they don't watch his tape of actual games where he's got 2 separate body of works, one in Ann Arbor in 2020 and then one in Tennessee, and they're not good bodies of work.
He's a big version of Malik Willis. That's what he is. Am I wrong? Big arm. Couldn't hit the side of fucking U of M Stadium if he tried. He's fucking awful.
I'd say he's more of a less touted Jamarcus Russell, a guy that's just
I mean, guys
arm
like
hype.
him. You know, there was a guy like him who used to play for Vatek years ago. And guess what? He wanted to play in tight end in the league. Logan Thomas. You remember him?
Yeah.
When he played quarterback?
Just a big dude with a cannon.
He was fucking huge. Huge.
And then in the 7th round, Jaheim Bell, Florida State tight end.
This is one of my steals of the draft. I think Jaheim Bell should have gone no later than the 4th round. If you look at his measurables and his numbers and how they compare, taking Brock Bowers out of the picture, how they compare to a lot of other guys in this draft, Jaheim Bell was hella good last year for Florida State. He was really good. And I think that he's less of a project than people think. I think that he can make an impact just the way their pass catchers set up. And I personally don't believe Henry's on the field blocking tight end. He's going to make some plays, going to be a red zone guy. I personally don't believe in Hooper. I could see a scenario where we know Jaheim Bell's name fairly often later in the season, November, December this year. That's a great pickup for them.
Should we head south?
Okay.
To South Beach in particular.
Overalls.
South Beach. Go ahead.
Before we go, Patriots offseason?
I mean,
Both of you?
Free agency was just them taking their own guys.
right, re-signing their own, which is not a bad thing. I think more teams should do that, and they don't, to develop the guys that they got there. And you know, what are you going to say, dude? What are you going to do in a draft?
The reason why I really didn't even care to get an overall is because I think so far out of all of these we've done, this one has been one of the most uninteresting.
This is a full rebuild.
Yeah, they're in
This is a 3-win
rebuild.
team.
You drafted the biggest project out of all the rookie quarterbacks, and you gave him no assets to work with. This is a rebuild. It's going to be slow. You need to develop Drake May and develop all the young pieces that they have around him, and you go from there.
I think Jacoby Brissett is the perfect guy to mentor this kid because he's gonna fucking struggle.
Golden
At
Robert
what
gives
point
them a
does he
C.
play and he's gonna struggle?
Golden Robert gives them a C.
I agree. It's C. It's C work at its best.
I think it's more like D.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if Drake May is good, you're going to look back at this draft and be like,
Oh my God.
yeah. Hey, we'll all eat our words if he's good.
Tons of upside.
I don't see it, but
Tons of upside all over the board. Jalen Polk, tons of upside. Jaheim Bell, tons of upside. Drake May, tons of upside. So maybe this is their Lions draft where they ended up with Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Put together something.
We'll see.
The Miami Dolphins. They got a new defensive coordinator in Anthony Weaver.
Okay.
I'm shocked they ran Vic Fangio out of town after a year.
Same.
Especially with all the injuries they had on defense.
Absolutely.
Their problems were mainly attributed. I mean, they were into signing guys off the street and having them play 3 days later. That's why they were. It's not like they were that bad with scheme. Their collapse was directly related to injuries down the stretch.
Correct.
Supposedly this offseason, Stephen Ross was offered $10 billion with a billion dollars to sell the team, and he did not.
Who offered it to him? Tom Brady?
They didn't say, and this was just a rumor. Stephen Ross, for those that don't know him, he is Florida. He's the epitome of, I think his home is actually in what's the area in Bell Harbor, the island where Brady's at? Indian Creek, where Tom Brady.
Davis Island?
No, not Davis Island's Tampa. Indian Creek is where it's directly if you go across from Surfside and Bell Harbor, if you go directly across to the inner side.
Oh, like off Miami Beach.
Off Miami Beach.
Inland.
There's an island where Ivanka has a house and Tom Brady's finishing his house there. A ton of people live on it. It's called Indian Creek. There's a golf club in the middle of it. It's impossible to get into. It's private. You got to own a house or you got to know someone. Stephen Ross grew up there. He went to North Miami High School, if I remember correctly. You might have to fact check me on that. He is South Florida. He is the Dolphins, even though he went to Michigan and he has a huge presence in New York and developed a lot in New York City. He's going to hold on to that team until he dies.
He started his high school at Mumford, and then transferred to Miami Beach.
Miami Beach, yeah, okay. His family moved from Detroit to there. Is that what it was, or something like that?
They moved, from Detroit. He was born here, and then they moved down to Miami.
Yeah, so he's a typical Miami Jew. He's not selling that team, and if a guy is getting offered $10 billion and doesn't bite on it, there's bigger picture conversation. We'll save it for the summer when we have more time. But this is the most sought after fraternity in this country is NFL owner. It's the fraternity that everyone wants to be a part of most, and he's not going to relinquish that. Well, he's an old guy.
People are that own it. Same people that own Hollywood.
They extended running back Raheem Mostert 1 year, $4.1 million.
Not a bad signing.
I think they're also preparing for his departure too after this year.
I feel like after this year,
if A-Chain can stay healthy,
and he can't put up they drafted one of my favorite running backs in the draft. If it's not possible to put up the numbers that he put up last year again.
Correct, especially if A-Chan's healthy. Then they went out and signed safety Jordan Poyer to a 1 year deal. Nice veteran safety. I still think Jordan Poyer's got gas in the tank personally.
He's a good
He
player.
did it in Buffalo.
He fits in that backfield, but there's a lot of attrition here, and you'll get to it.
They also signed Shaq Barrett to a 1 year deal worth $9 million. Again, they were signing guys off the street and playing them 24 hours afterwards. So, tight end Jonnu Smith, 2 years, $10 million.
Okay.
They've been missing a pass catching tight end since Gesicki left. And he hasn't even catch pass as well. So they're in the market for a tight end eventually.
What? They don't give a shit about tight end, dude. They just signed another fucking receiver. They're not even going to throw the ball to tight end. He's just going to be blocking.
Linebacker Jordan Brooks, 3 year, $30 million.
What's there not to like?
What's there not to like? Honestly, I think that's not a bad deal either, realistically.
Better than the guys they had there.
Signed center Aaron Brewer to a 3 year deal. Kendall Fuller to a 2 year deal. You want to know what this is starting to sound like? The Rams from a couple years ago. Just go out and get a bunch of old, big-name veterans
some guys
on
solid
defense.
Players and let's plug
and you
them
want it to sound even more like that? They went out and got Odell.
that just to me made no sense. But okay.
Why? It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense.
Beckham, if you're only going to throw him the ball maybe 3 to 4 times a game, it's good.
Well, that's all they have to do. That's the beauty of it.
Because he has not been a relevant player since he got hurt in the Super Bowl playing with the Rams.
Listen,
He hasn't been relevant since then.
listen. With guys like Braxton
He
Berrios,
was fucking awful last year.
who?
Beckham Jr.
I don't think he was awful. He was
was
just
fucking
used in a
awful,
role that you're not used to seeing him be
He
used
was
in.
fucking awful last year.
I don't think they realized what they had in him and how to utilize him until the end of the year,
Yes,
and then
correct.
they started to do that, and then he didn't do shit in the play. They forgot.
He
what
was
they were
he
doing.
was awful. In the playoffs, he was non-existent. He was awful.
No one was existent for them in the playoffs, though.
Zay Flowers, and we don't even know what's going to happen with him yet.
Listen, they already
Go
have,
ahead.
They got Braxton Berrios and River fucking Craycraft.
Yeah, Chris Kraft,
Yeah, River Chris Kraft.
River Chris Kraft, and
Braxton Berrios.
and the porn star fucking Tariq Hill, who's going to be sitting next to Antonio Brown pretty soon. So that's what's going to happen there.
They also got Benito Jones,
Okay,
Anthony Walker,
okay,
Neville Gallimore, defensive tackle,
okay,
defensive tackle Isaiah Mack,
okay,
cornerback Cyron Neal.
okay.
They retained guard Isaiah Wynn.
Well, they better. They lost their best guard. Go ahead.
They also re-signed defensive back Elijah Campbell, running back Sullivan Ahmed,
Okay.
punter Jake Bailey, defensive tackle Deshaun Hand, and Uncle Sam's own wide receiver Braxton Berrios.
Sean Hand?
Yeah,
He's still playing?
he's been there.
I thought he was gone after the Lions.
No,
No, he's
been in
journeyman.
Miami.
He's been all over the place. I think it's more than Miami. He's been to a few places.
Yeah, but he's not even relevant anymore.
So now we get to the meat of it.
Okay.
Their losses. Starting off, defensive tackle Christian Wilkins.
Huge loss for them. That was the heart and soul
Massive
of their
loss.
defense.
Yep.
Heart and soul of their defense. You agree?
Yeah, and I mean, what you got Benito Jones to slide into that spot now, pretty much, right?
Oh, okay. But he's not.
No,
He's not the player that Wilkins is.
Guard Robert Hunt.
That's a huge loss for them. Huge loss. Pro Bowl guard.
Cornerback Xavier Howard.
Another big loss. Solid guy in that secondary for a long time.
Defensive end Emmanuel Agba.
He was kind of a fucking role player anyway. He wasn't really a premier starter. He was a rotationary guy that they had got from Cleveland.
Now you want to talk about a loss.
Go ahead.
Linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel.
He kind of he saved the rest of the season for them defensively last year. And
Yeah,
he wasn't even a starter until everyone died, but
Jalen
Right.
Phillips died.
is
yeah.
a
Right.
great player, Van Ginkel.
Where'd Van Keekel go?
I think Chicago.
Did you say Van Kegel?
Whatever his name is. Van Krinkle.
Van Ginkel.
Van Gickel.
He's in
Van
Minnesota. now.
Schmickel.
Minnesota, wrong NFC North team.
They also lost linebacker Jerome Baker. President Baker. Safety Deshaun Elliott.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle Raekwon Davis.
Okay.
Another safety in Brandon Jones.
Now you tell me, with what they signed a free agent and what you just read off that they lost, I would say they are not better.
So if we kind of go back to back here, I mean, Christian Wilkins, his replacement was Benito Jones, like we said. Right?
And he does not play at the same level as Wilkins.
No.
I wouldn't even say that that's his replacement.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. That's embarrassing.
Lost Xavier Howard, brought in Kendall Fuller.
That's embarrassing. I don't think Kendall Fuller's that bad of a player. I just don't think he's as good as Xavier Howard.
You lost two safeties and brought in Jordan Poyer.
Basically, the Bills casted him away, you know?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, you think that's an upgrade?
I mean,
You think that's an upgrade, Mike? No.
so far, there's no, I would have to.
Go ahead.
And then, obviously, Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips last year out for the year with season-ending injuries. We don't know when they're going to
You
be ready
don't
to
even know if they'll be ready for the start of this season because they were hurt so late. I don't think they'll be ready when training camp starts.
It's meant to segue right into the draft. Their hand was forced to take
Correct.
a D end. and they missed that run of initial DNs, which was Turner, Latu, Verse. So they had to take best available. I think they picked at 21, maybe 21. They had to take best available, which was Chop Robinson at that point in time. Great player. He was considered a project, though. He's going to play off the rip, even if he's a project. His snaps might be a little bit limited. Give him time. He's a monster. He's a great player.
He's a Penn State linebacker, and Penn State doesn't go wrong with their linebackers. So all they do is put linebackers in the NFL every year.
Second round, pick number 55, they went to the offensive line and took Patrick Paul out of Houston.
Same drill. This was, we need to ensure our depth.
Correct.
Paul will eventually start there. It won't be this year. And they were just forced, a good player, not good positional value. They were forced in best available. And he's a tackle. Patrick Paul's a tackle. And there was just such a run on tackles before that they couldn't get their hands. Well, not necessarily. I think Sua Mataya went after this guy. So they must have really liked him, but
Okay.
they needed to take a tackle. So
After that, in the fourth round, because they didn't have a third, they took somebody Zolo speaks highly of, running back Jalen Wright out of Tennessee.
I think Jalen Wright may have been the best running back in this draft. Different. I mean, you could make the case for Blake Corum, different players. I think Jalen Wright's guaranteed pro success, whereas Corum isn't, because Jalen Wright's in a perfect system for him. Think of him as a cross, a hybrid of Achan's speed and pass catching abilities and Raheem Mostert's, downfield capabilities. Think of him as the hybrid. This is Mostert's replacement. It was a luxury pick. They probably could have looked in a ton of different directions, but they did a lot of homework on him and they liked him, and I think he's a perfect fit.
In the fifth round, they went defensive lineman Mohamed Kamara, Colorado State.
This is another guy that could very well start for them next year. This was one of the steals of the draft. He was a guy that should have went no later than the third round. Great pick. I'm excited to see what Kamara does in this system, and I genuinely think he'll start for them at some point next year.
2 6-rounders. 184, they took wide receiver Malik Washington out of Virginia.
I think Malik Washington, you'll have to fact check me. He might have been like 5'8" or 5'9". He wasn't a very big guy.
Yeah, those tiny guys that play.
5'8".
Yeah, 5'8".
Wow.
Super fast though.
Yeah.
And there was this thing of Mike McDaniel going around to pro days where super fast guys were. Like he was at Texas's pro day to see Xavier Worthy, and he's just fast. And who knows? He could end up being a nice piece for them eventually.
With the other 6th-round pick, 198, Patrick McMorris, California defensive back. And then in the 7th, Taj Washington, USC wide receiver.
Washington's a bit of a project, but he's another guy that fits in with what they do.
So with that being said,
Played in a good system too, so that'll help him here.
With that being said, I don't think anybody was very high on this Dolphins offseason. Too many losses.
I think they drafted well. I wasn't their free agency to me bombed, but I don't know. I don't know what you think, Mike, but
I wouldn't.
I
be
thought in
pleased.
free agency they got a fucking F, and in the draft I would give them a B.
If I was a Dolphins fan and I watched my team choke away the division the last 2 years at the end of the year, and again, a lot of it wasn't entirely their fault, I wouldn't fire Mike McDaniels based on this draft going into next year, but there's going to be a regression. Without Phillips and Chubb, there's going to be a regression. I think if the offense stays healthy, they're going to be able to compete, and they might have a shot at a wild card berth. But who knows? This division's kind of up for grabs at this point. I think this division's wide open, pending what happens with Aaron Rodgers. And they're not necessarily the class of their division, but the offense is, and that's going to win them some games. It's how quick can the defense rebound with all of the attrition that they had.
Right. I agree with that. I mean, it's all about offense in the NFL, so I agree with that.
Speaking of offense, should we go to the team that won the division last year?
Fucking hate this team.
Bruce is awake. Holy fuck.
Wide awake.
Welcome. The Buffalo
Interesting.
The Buffalo Bills.
The Buffalo Bruces.
To start it off, a couple staff changes. Promoted Joe Brady to offensive coordinator and Bobby Babbage to defensive coordinator.
Okay.
Any input there? None? Joe Brady? Nobody's got anything to say about Joe Brady?
Joe Brady, I mean, I've said stuff about him in the past. I love what Joe Brady did at LSU. I'm shocked he flopped at Carolina. He transitioned to a team that just ran the ball down the stretch once he took over for Dorsey last year. So,
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see. Babbage, I mean, I think their defense has some issues. So
I mean, can these guys even rebound after all the shit they've lost? I mean, basically, they lost their whole receiving core.
Well, here we go. We're going to talk about it right now. They traded wide receiver Stephon Diggs of Houston for a 2025 second-round pick. We discussed that the other day.
Well,
had enough.
Their hands were tied.
He had enough.
He couldn't keep them.
no,
He had enough.
I think they had enough.
Everybody had enough.
Yeah.
I think that situation just spoiled to a point of no
Definitely
return.
Had enough.
For people that say that this guy was model person, his actions don't speak that. His actions don't speak professional.
Well, when you have a quarterback as stubborn as Josh Allen, shit.
Where do you get stubborn from?
Flames.
Back it up.
Stubborn?
Cite your sources.
Stubborn? What do you mean?
Are you a Haley Steinfeld fan?
Haley Steinfeld?
He doesn't
Really
know
not.
who that is.
Is
Anyways.
that his girlfriend?
Yeah, it's his guma.
He's the LeBron James of the NFL.
Who?
Josh Allen.
Careful, you're going to piss President Baker off.
Yeah, you don't want to go there with President
Fuck
Baker.
right now.
Some other departures.
Yes.
Okay.
Other departures. Quarterback Kyle Allen. Obviously, safety Jordan Poyer. Defensive end Leonard Floyd. Nothing so far. Defensive tackle Poona Ford.
Yeah, we're getting somewhere.
Eye on Josh Allen.
Defensive tackle Tim Settle. Running back Naheem Hines. Wide receiver Gabe Davis. Safety Micah Hyde. Defensive tackle Linville Joseph. Defensive end Shaq Lawson and running back Latavius Murray. All gone out of Buffalo. But to fill their spots, they brought in quarterback Mitch Trubisky. Uncle Sam, thoughts on Mitch Trubisky?
I can't believe this guy's still on an NFL team. That's all I could say.
Why? He's a real talent.
He's absolute dog shit. You know that. Stop. Stop.
They released
Dog shit.
a couple of guys as well. Tre'Davious White.
They let their whole secondary go. I don't care. I don't
Everybody's
understand.
gone.
They let their whole receiving core go and their fucking secondary go. How are you going to get better? How do you get better doing that?
They
I'm sorry, dude, but at what point do you not hold that fucking that coach responsible?
Syrian Neal gone. Another corner. Cut. And center Mitch Morse. Cut. But you know what they did? They brought in wide receiver Mac Hollins and wide receiver Curtis Samuel. 3 years, $30 million.
Fuck is that?
So you lose Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. You bring in
Mac
Hollins and Curtis Samuel.
You tell me which two guys you would rather have.
Their big addition was in the draft at wide receiver.
Okay.
This is true. That was their real Stephon Diggs replacement, I guess. They also signed offensive tackle Lal Collins,
Okay.
as well as defensive tackle DeQuan Jones, 2 years, $16 million. Couple other guys that they brought in: KJ Hamler, wide receiver; Nicholas Morrow, linebacker;
Hamler was hurt every year in Denver.
punter Matt Hayek.
I don't know what you just said, but okay.
Matt Hayek.
Whatever that is.
Defensive end Casey Toohill. Center Will Clapp. Wide receiver Chase Claypool, who I believe has now been cut.
They cut
Would
him?
make sense.
I
They
think,
cut him before the year started?
I think they cut him
They just
already.
signed him last week.
I think they signed him last week
And then cut him? I'll tell you what dog shit he is. I guess Mike Tomlin wasn't wrong about that, was he?
Then linebacker Deion Jones. Anything
wrong
left
with
in the
that
tank
pick.
there? Anything left?
That's
in the
probably,
tank
you
there?
know what? Their linebacker core, because they missed their premier guy there last year. He's better than anyone they had on that roster, even at his age.
And also Dwayne Smoot, defensive end.
Okay.
But they did extend Taron Johnson, 3 years, $31 million,
Okay.
cornerback. So they have somebody left, as well as Tyler Rapp, 3 years, $3.5 million.
Taylor Rapp.
Yep.
Oh, they got him from.
They've had him. They extended him.
Oh, they did.
And they also
They got him from the Rams.
not last year, the year before. Also, offensive tackle Deion Dawkins, 3 years, $58 million.
Okay.
Let's talk about their draft. Because like Zolo said, they did go out and get a number 1 wide receiver in the second round. They traded out of the first. Pick 33, Keon Coleman, wide receiver, Florida State.
One of my favorite players in the draft. He's since backed it up with every single press clipping we've seen on him, every soundbite we've had on him. His press conference was perfect. He was wearing this yellow coat, and they were asking him about his coat, and he went in full-blown Louisiana trying to explain how he got it from Macy's. He's hilarious. He's a great player, too. The knock on him is his speed. He doesn't have elite speed, but they might not need him to have elite speed, and they've already got some fast guys and Samuel.
DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have elite speed.
Yeah, you don't need it. And
break.
what I don't love is how they got there, which was they traded pick 25 or whatever it was, 27, 28 to the Chiefs. You traded with your rival that you've been trying to beat for 4 years, and you gave them an opportunity to get a guy that's faster. I genuinely think Keon Coleman's going to be better than Xavier Worthy. I still don't like giving the Chiefs assets to move up and get him. Take Coleman here and then see what happens on the back end. Who knows? Maybe the Niners take Worthy. They took Ricky Pearsall at 31. Maybe the Niners take Worthy there if all goes according to plan.
Right.
So you didn't have to give the Chiefs anything to acquire an asset in the 5th round, but you did. But I love Keon Coleman. Great player for sure.
In the second round, they took somebody who I was pretty high on, safety Cole Bishop out of Utah.
It's Poyer's replacement.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly
He'll
right.
get good playing time eventually
You
next year.
plug and play him. He starts from day one.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Third round, 95th pick, Dwayne Carter. Good name. Duke, defensive tackle.
Well, you should be able to play with a name like that.
Fourth round, Ray Davis, running back, Kentucky.
Ray Davis has a great story. I think he was an orphan, or he was in foster care, and with his siblings, and they could only take like 2 siblings, and they took his other 2 because he was old enough. He goes, "Don't worry, I'll get back to you guys eventually," and worked his way up through the system and ended up as a college football running back, and now he's making money to feed his family after growing up poor. So good story.
Good for him.
And they signed another running back in undrafted free agency who I didn't list here, but we'll get to that at the end.
5th round, they had, am I reading this right? 3 5th-round picks. 141, Cedric Van Pran, offensive line out of Georgia.
He will eventually start for him. He was
He'll be the
probably
starter.
3rd or 4th best true center in this draft. He's a good player.
Linebacker, Edifan Ulofoshiu, linebacker, Washington. You didn't even try to correct me on that.
Here,
One. That was just
I'm going to tell you something about Foshu. He's Foshu, the best linebacker that you could get outside of the top 5 rounds.
With 168, Javen Solomon, Troy, defensive end. Okay.
Well, I mean, you're picking these guys late. A lot of people don't know who these guys are. And if you could draft these guys and develop them into being a solid role player or a situational player, you're doing a good job there.
And Solomon, he actually is a decent player. I don't know why he slid. He had a higher grade on him. Good player, though, I promise. It just might take a little bit.
Slid because of everybody making the mistakes in the first 3 rounds.
Tylen Grabble, 6th-round pick out of UCF, offensive lineman.
That's true, Leon.
Daquan Hardy, Penn State corner with 219. And then at 221, tackle Travis Clayton. Overall.
He signed an undrafted free agent running back.
Frank Gore Jr. And that'll make Josh Allen the first quarterback ever to hand off to a father and son running back tandem.
I hear ya.
First quarterback ever to do that. Frank Gore
Frank
Jr.
Gore from the
I
U, by
don't
the way.
know if he's going to make the team or not, because I think they have a few pieces at running back here. But Frank Gore Jr., I think he went to Southern Miss.
Yep.
He was quality. He was a quality back. He's not like his dad. He's not the little bulldozer that doesn't get off his feet like his dad. He's more shifty. You know, you need to make an effort between the tackles type. We'll see. We'll see on Frank Gore Jr.
Current Bills running back depth chart: James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, Darrington Evans, and then Frank Gore Jr. sitting at 5th. Be interesting to see, though.
Yeah.
Maybe he can make his way up there. Overall on the Bills,
Dog shit.
we got decisions to make here.
I think this offseason sucked for this division.
This offseason did suck for this division, but if we had to rank them, I think it's hard to say anything but the Jets at number 1.
I agree.
Best free agency for sure.
Now, we said that New England was more middle of the pack, but all of us agreed that we really didn't care for Miami or Buffalo. So essentially, whose was worse?
I think I'm going to punish Miami because they spent money on spare parts just because, you know, they're not the greatest of names. So, they had to, in a way. They had to go out and get these assets because they're banged up. But I think I'm going to go with them because they didn't need to spend some of the money that they spent. They're just waiting for guys to get back. You know, so they shouldn't have wasted the assets just to put a body in.
I think they jumped the gun not thinking they were going to have these assets available. So they kind of reached, and I think that hurt them.
A level of fear.
Yep.
So
Fear to keep your job.
we'll put Miami at the bottom then. So between the Bills and the Patriots, who had the better offseason?
Patriots.
I actually think the Patriots.
I
I actually think the Bills lost their entire receiving core. They
And
lost
their entire secondary, you're right.
What the fuck, dude?
This division is
What are we
so
talking
bad.
about right now?
This
You know
division-
what? I actually think the Bills are below the Dolphins.
This division is so bad that I'm so sick of talking about it. And it's not even worth me arguing, and I agree with you guys. I think it's the Jets offseason,
Yeah.
and then three-way tie for 4th place
between poop.
is the Patriots, the Bills, and the Dolphins.
Who stirred the most shit?
Yeah.
Like the Patriots had such a bad offseason, but looking at it in comparison to
To the other two.
To
yeah,
Miami
at
and
least they
Buffalo.
gave the good money to good guys, their own
Yeah.
guys, you know. And I don't
That's
hate
where I
their
put
draft.
them ahead of Buffalo, because they actually paid some of the guys that they were able to keep.
I'll say this much
They
about
lost more than everybody else did.
Miami. I actually really liked Miami's draft.
Yes.
I'll say that much. I like their draft. I like the Bills taking Keon, and I like some of the assets in their draft compared to the Patriots. So, ranking the drafts, I would even put Miami's draft above the Jets' draft, to be honest with you. I thought that the Dolphins had a great draft.
And even that good of a draft, it still doesn't make up for their offseason whole.
No.
No, because a lot of their stuff, like the attrition, it's tough. They need Phillips and Chubb back. Like they have a lot of Jalen Phillips is on a rookie deal. They have a lot invested in
Right.
him. You know,
Chubbs, they're paying a lot of money for him.
and Miami could also recover enough because they're that good offensively. Like they didn't experience that
Is
attrition
Von Miller
offensively.
still there?
Buffalo.
Yeah.
I think they're planning to do something with him, but
They're not
yeah,
gonna.
He is
drop
still
him
there.
out.
I think.
He's still under contract.
Vaughn Miller is there listed on the depth chart behind AJ Epinenza.
I'm shocked. I don't even know what to fucking say at this point.
Yeah. You got to figure.
That to me is fucking ridiculous.
He's 35 years old, dude.
I don't. Give a fuck.
Come on.
Where he should be is in two places. He should be in San Francisco or Detroit.
Oh, wow. You want him
Yeah.
to come here, eh?
How about that? How about that? He should be either in San Francisco or Detroit. An actual team that's going to go and try to win their fucking division and go deep into the playoffs.
Well, don't give me.
I don't see Buffalo going deep into the division. I'm sorry.
Listen.
Who is it? Your guys from Buffalo?
The
Fucking Yak
The
Boys.
Big Yak.
The Smack Boys.
The Yak.
Listen, dude.
Smack crew.
Buffalo will not go as far as they did last year. They
You don't think Buffalo- hold on.
got huge luck last year to get where they were at.
I don't want to spoil too much. You don't think Buffalo has a chance to win this division?
No, I don't.
Oof. Who's going to win it then?
Do I have to say it?
Oh, whatever, dude.
I actually do. Just
Gangrene. Gangrene, baby.
I think the Jets have top to bottom. I think they have the best roster. The Dolphins are contingent on their offense picking up where it left off.
They got better defensively. They're already a top 5 fucking defense, and they just got better defensively.
I disagree. I think they got better offensively.
I think they got better defensively on their defensive line.
Offensively is where, yeah, I mean, there's
because it was Quentin Williams and just a couple other guys. Now you got Kinlaw in there. You got him, Solomon Thomas in there. These are guys with experience. Playoff experience. That's something that Jets didn't have. You got a fucking quarterback who's got experience now. Your defensive line, you got Mosley, who's experienced in playoffs and being one of the top linebackers in this league for the last fucking 8 years.
Sure.
You know,
I'll say this much about the Dolphins. I think that they're going to have a shot to recreate the wheel, just thinking about this division based on it's going to go as their offense does. And I think they have a good coach. I do like Mike McDaniels. But the Jets had the most aggressive offseason because they needed to have the most aggressive offseason.
right.
This is their shit or get off
They're
the
all
pot
in.
here.
They're all in. And I love it.
Best case, Aaron Rodgers comes in and takes a literal shit. He's not what he was. He doesn't pick up where he left off. But I'm inclined to believe.
I don't believe that at all.
I'm inclined to believe he's going to be decent because of what they did at tackle. I think they added 3 tackles essentially
To help.
And Morgan Moses ain't great. Tyron Smith for 1 year is going to be a good little gig for them.
Hey, as long as they can protect him, that's it.
They can, but will the turf protect him? Tune in to find out. Week 1.
We're going to find out.
All right.
Nobody smoked as much peyote than Aaron Rodgers. Maybe Bruce, but I doubt it.
So after this, we only have one AFC division left for
Thank God.
for Friday.
Tired
right?
of that bullshit.
Friday, we're going to do the AFC North. That'll be a fun one. We got a lot of hot teams there. I think, again, last year, if you guys remember, we were all pretty conflicted on who was going to win that division. I think we will still be.
I had it.
He did have it.
Shout out to Carl G.
But yeah, we're going to talk AFC North on Friday. Next week, we'll start NFC. We also will have an interview that comes out on Wednesday. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, other than that, do we have anything else to add today before we end? We will start off Friday's show with our poll today of NBA players in the NFL versus NFL players in the NBA.
That's a good dialogue to have, too. It is taking over the world at the moment.
Yeah. So we're going to start with that on Friday. But
I don't want to hear about LeBron James ever being able to play in the NFL. He's too much of a pussy. A flat-out fucking pussy. Yes.
President Baker knows where you live.
I don't give a fuck because he's a pussy too. So I don't care either way. He could never play in the NFL. With the way I see him flopping around like a fucking fish out of water, he could never play in the NFL. He could never play in the NFL.
outside of LeBron James, do you have anything else to add?
He would need days off.
Do you have anything else to add?
I'm sorry?
Do you have anything else to add besides LeBron James? Zolo, anything to add? Bruce? Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. We will be back on Friday with our AFC North off-season recap. Make sure to follow our socials because we do have an interview coming next week, and you guys should be in the loop on it. That's Instagram at TipBalls, Twitter at TipBalls, TikTok at TipBalls Podcast. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Music, make sure to check us out on YouTube, subscribe, and ring the bell so you know when we go live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays sometime around 5. Also, Tip Thoughts, www.tipballs.com. We got some great stories out there that are pumping out right now faster than I can edit them. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back on Friday.